Body and Mind Development channel. My name is Alexander. Today speak about Keto Diet. Very famous now. Spring begin and all want to lose weight to summer. So Keto Diet, it's high fat diet. When body function without carbohydrates, it is forced to use fat as energy. This process is called ketosis. Ketosis body, ketosis. Accordingly, similar diet is called Keto Diet. Main advantage of this diet is that if you take away carbohydrates, then your body has switched use of fats, actually from which you won't get rid of. But some important organs of our body, for example brain, main organs of body, use carbohydrates and their energy or their alternative ketone bodies, ketones, which become new carriers of energy instead of glucose, carbohydrates, if there are not. In general, body, when there is a lack of glucose, carbohydrates from food, for example, it necessary start Ketoz split fat into fatty acids and ketones. This is practically reduces acetones, and it is not useful for our body. Load on body is very significant because you force him to do what he is not used to doing, getting fast energy from long fat and proteins. In addition, you have load and your digestive tract is not usually low because you have to replace usual carbohydrates. Then fat is not paradoxical. I found that most of the people are considered about practical aspects. For example, product lists, rules, loading, and health hazards, brain, organs that can cause keto diets. In general, such a survey gives me hope, believe that today's issue will be not just interesting, but also very practical. You will learn a lot about how to get rid of subcutaneous fat. Many people know that if you limit yourself in sweet or complex carbohydrates, rice, buckwheat, pasta, broad, potatoes, then body weight as a rule is reduced by a couple of kilograms. In fact, such restriction is in intake of carbohydrates and our diet, low carbohydrates. It works very well because it creates deficit of energy in body, which is covered by body reserves, subcutaneous fat. That's why people often lose weight while reduction carbohydrates in the diet. So keto diet, in your diet is from 30 to 40% of calories come from protein and 70-60% of calories from fat. Thus you actually eat a lot of fatty products such as steaks, fried eggs, fatty fish, pork, sushi, kebab, and so on. But you can not eat carbohydrates. Only things you can afford is about 20 grams of fiber from green vegetables, for example cucumbers, lettuce leaves, and so on. Diet is not as simple as it might seem. You probably don't understand how much important carbohydrates have for us, but this diet works. I tried it about 2 years ago and result was finished. Hi there, my name is Alexander, Body and Mind Development channel. So continue speak about Keto Diet because now it's spring and this is popular theme in this time. So, well, what if you completely remove carbohydrates from diet? Will this be even more effective in terms of fat burning? This is so popular question. Answer is yes. And such diet was very popular in golden era of bodybuilding. It was promoted by Vincent Gironda. It's called Keto Diet. Keto diet, it's non-carbohydrate diet, high in protein and fat, compensate for lack of carbohydrates. Why is diet called keto? Because in absence of carbohydrates from fat begin ketones, its ketone bodies are produced as source of energy for brain and nervous system. So all three nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, fats, have their basis function in our body. Proteins is building material of our body. It's how energy is spent in emergency cases. And fats is safety our body. It's energy reserve and protection of organs. And last, carbohydrates, it's energy supply of our body. You see, main source of energy supply is carbohydrates and reserve fats and proteins. That's why you are so drawn sweet and complex carbohydrates in everyday life. After all, this is where get main source of energy for your body. That's why you don't limit yourself in carbohydrates. Your body don't understand that you are doing this consciously. Body think you are in extreme hunger situation, and if you don't get carbohydrates, you will have spent emergency resource in form of fat. What will happen if you supply the desires of your body and continue restrict intake of carbohydrates? Gradually, all reserves of glycogen, canned carbohydrates in your body will be strict, and body will have a switch use of secondary sources. Energy is fats and proteins. In principle, this is not terrible for your body because it's capable of fully meet their needs from fat stocks. But this is scary for your brain and nervous system, who need glucose, carbohydrates. After all, brain can't use correctly fatty acid for its energy supply. Oops. What to do? Die? Don't sleep, friends. Human body is product of evolution of million years. There is in him mechanism of survival and in absent carbohydrates. In end, after all, hunger is quite friend occurrence in history of development of our species. What is this mechanism? This mechanism is ketonic bodies. Ketonic bodies are produced from fat in deficit of glucose, carbohydrates, in diet. Source of energy brain is glucose, mean carbohydrates. Glucose it's main with enough carbohydrates in the diet. Ketones it's emergency from fat without enough carbohydrates. Process of ketones from fat production is called ketosis. So, resulting ketone brain begins use instead of glucose. By the way, that's why this diet was first used among epileptics. Its brain began work better, seizures become less because body switched alternative energy supply. This happens with almost complete absence of carbohydrates in diet. What is equal this almost? Most often referred as figure from 30 to 50 grams carbohydrates per day. It's believed if you eat more than 100 grams per day, then ketose will not be possible because of this carbohydrates will be produced glucose and will not need completely switch fat energy supply. Bottom line is usually carbohydrates coming from food are processed into glucose for immediate use. And glycogen is glucose reserve for non-instant use. This glycogen reserve is stored in liver and muscles, but if it not replaced, there are no carbohydrates. Then it consumed within 1 or 2 days, and then adaptation begins turn on. Body is gradually begin reconstructed into new rails of energy supply from fats. When this restriction takes place completely, usually in course of 1 week, then body starts very actively burns fat as main source of energy. Can then all keep care cards at zero during time outlooks? So in this decision there is big plus and small minus. Plus is less carbohydrates, faster you will spend your stock glycogen and faster body will understand that it's necessary rebuild of fat. Reason is insulin. It determines disease role in which energy source will be used. Less carbohydrates, less insulin. When level insulin in blood high, it blocks lipolysis. Lipolysis is fat splitting. Hey, by the way, why if you drink sweet water in training, then fat burning is included. I constantly say that during drying process you need to drink ordinary water. It doesn't raise insulin and doesn't block fat burning. Carbohydrates in zero minimize insulin and unlock lipolysis. This is a plus, big plus. Minus is that gastrointestinal tract needs is in cell fibrous carbohydrates for high grade function. Fact is that throughout its development, humankind about almost never expanded. Complete absence fibrous food, roots, plants. So our goods are used fiber, and although it is a low calorie, but still refers carbohydrates, often with complete elimination of vegetables and fiber from diet. There may be problems with digestive tract such as obstruction. Personally, my opinion, carbohydrates minimum, but vegetables are needed. Just choose not sweet. For example, cucumbers. So about coverage. With keto diet, you consume smaller amount of food than with low carb or regular diet. In addition, proteins and fats lead more complete assimilation of this volume of food. Therefore, education of facial masses decreases. In other words, if you have become much less likely go to toilet in keto diet, this doesn't mean that you have constipation. So, low carbohydrate or non-carbohydrate. Often people have confusion between low carbohydrates and keto diet, because both here and there sometimes there are carbohydrates. With keto diet there are eaten from 20 to 50 grams from vegetables. Difference is that with low carbohydrate diet carbs more, and this doesn't allow switching fat. There is not ketosis. And with keto diet, carbohydrates are negligible or not, and this causes switch fat as energy. So there is no confusion. For simplification, we say that keto diet it's without carbohydrate diet, and low carbohydrate there are carbohydrates, but there are not enough completely close deficit, burning part of fat, but carbohydrates it's main source of energy. And keto diet, no carbohydrates, deficiency is completely closed from fats. Carbohydrates are not main source of energy fat. Main difference is what used as energy. With keto diet uses fat as a basic source of energy. This is also triggers for ketosis. However, there are different ways to create necessary deficit of carbohydrates include ketosis.